Just the sounds of badminton rackets hitting the shuttlecocks is so relaxing. Remove everything else but these striking sounds. Like a grandfather clock ticking, I know that time passes between each smash. Relaxing. I'm in my happy place. I wish we could be here forever, but Hanebado is anything but relaxing. Hanebado, the badminton play of Ayano Hanesaki, or just Hanebado among friends, is not the most popular sports anime or a manga, but for a half a year I've been fascinated by it. And by fascinated I mean I recall a certain character and I start seething with rage. Hanebado is a story about drive, obsession, determination, frustration, clash of talent and hard work. All the ingredients that a good sports anime manga needs. Hanebado also spices this up with childhood abandonment and trauma, which is filled with love of fun families. So, fun for the whole family. I think my introduction and journey through Hanebado is rather unusual. So let me explain how I got here. For some reason, YouTube recommended me a years old video that I now know was an edit of 2 scenes in episode 7. What I saw was a pink twin-tail Oyo-sama giving a handkerchief to her next badminton opponent while posting how she should use it to wipe away the tears after she humiliates her. Cut to the end of the match, where the petite black-haired opponent with a striking cold green eyes, offered the handkerchief back to help our Oyo-sama to swipe away the agony of defeat. I was hooked. I was eager to see more. But before I fired up the anime, I looked up some comments about Hanebado and read online, big mistake, that the anime takes some liberties which turn out to be a big understatement. And most crucially, the anime is not a complete adaptation. Foolishly, I made the logical choice and started reading the manga, but little did I know that as a consequence of my actions, this canon event would ensure that Hanebado would live rent-free in my head and has been stuck there for the past 6 months. Until past month, I finally watched the anime adaptation and reread the manga, and I was reborn as a new man. Not sure if you're any better for it, but I'm certainly new. Now I must confess that I had a lingering suspicion, which was that after I finished reading the manga and talked back to the YouTube video that introduced me to the series, is that I might actually enjoy the anime more. So I was somewhat eager to finally put this chapter of my life to bed, but what I found was not exactly that. What I did find was an actually interesting case study of how anime adaptations can offer a completely different, yet similar experience. And this might be the most interesting aspect of Hanebado as a whole. For myself at least, this made the experience way more pleasing. And if you watch the anime or read the manga, then you could just skip to my rant about the worst mom ever and continue from there. But if you're completely unfamiliar to Hanebado, let me tell you about the production and what Hanebado is all about. Like the full name implies, the titular protagonist is Ayano Hanesaki, who is your typical high school girl, just started school, is a bit timid and clings to her best friend Elena, and not so discreetly Ayano is a talented badminton player, but she chooses not to join the school's badminton club because of a small tinsy-wincy detail that her mother, Uchika, a generational badminton talent and one who spent years playing badminton with Ayano during her childhood, abandoned her after she lost one match. Gee whiz, I'm sure this didn't leave her with any emotional scars. Now the manga and the anime differ on the details, but Ayano, after displaying some inhuman strength and reactions to the coach Tachibana, ends up joining the club after some pressure from Elena and or Nagisa. Like we are not even 5 minutes in, and already there are multiple deviations in the anime compared to the manga. Another character you need to know is Nagisa Araki, who is a third-year student and someone who absolutely got humiliated by Ayano, 21 Love, year prior, which is depicted right at the start, but the anime expands on Ayano's side a bit. Nagisa is my favorite character, outside of the anime version of Elena. Just putting that out there. Nagisa is crestfallen after her defeat, and much of the early story focuses on her lashing out on other club members, and how she overcomes that feeling of utter despair. It's by the help of her closest friend Riko and the coach Tachibana that she goes through a full character arc in the first episode, which was exactly the same in the manga, but the anime likes to switch scenes around for an arguably better paced story. There are other qualities that make her stand out, and her journey is arguably the best part of Hanebado. The anime version definitely is, but the earlier chapters in the manga unfortunately focus a bit too much on her other qualities. What you'll probably notice instantly are these rather exquisite animation during the many badminton matches. If you watch something like The Blue Box, which to be fair is a romance anime first, drama second, and a sports anime a distant third, the difference is a night and day. The rallies go on for so long, and we see almost every single smash and return animated. According to Sakuga blog, the staff behind Hanebado were using rotoscoping and heavy reference materials when making Hanebado. Hanebado feels like a passion project, and for the animation producer Tomito Shinka, a long-time badminton player, this had to be a perfect fit. While it can be rather jarring at points, but those points are few and far between. The manga is no slouch either, and the artwork during key moments and the paneling makes you feel like you're right there, in the middle of the court, taking a big smash to the face. As a bonus, Sakuga blog takes note that the production was healthier than usual, even when the amount of work was truly immense. Take notes, Mappa. I'm not sure if this type of style is divisive, but outside of the more stylized visuals of Ping Pong the animation, which honestly would really work well here, I'm completely astonished by the quality, even if you lose some of the rawness that the later manga chapters had. Once you start to dig into Hanebado, it's easy to see the appeal of it all. On the surface level, I will compare it to your typical shonen battle manga. The badminton rallies that go on for minutes are like two fighters trading jabs, measuring each other out before they pull out the strong right hook to try and score a point, and as the bout continues, we add layers where both of our fighters are trying to one-up each other. In Hanebado, that strong right hook might just be a smash, but considering this atmosphere during matches, I'm surprised that not once did any of our characters square up.
案外小賢しいバドミントンしてくるんだね、渚ちゃん。スマッシュ、あまり見せたくないのかな。
Digging deeper, there is a clash of ideologies at the court, and there are as many dreams and insecurities as there are characters in the court. All the while, trying to instill to those same characters that having fun and enjoying playing badminton is all you need to play badminton. The undercurrent, or more accurately, the overcurrent theme of family and looking for the place you belong runs all through the series, and while Hanebado is not unique in this regard, it does it well, and these two narrative themes is the salt of Hanebado. Having good animation or great artwork is one thing, but that can only carry you so far, as if you peel the outer layer and find nothing inside, then that will make you drop the series faster than Ayano's mom abandoned her. What makes the manga and the first season of anime stand out is that Nagisa and Ayano play a dual role as the protagonists. Ayano plays a very cold, reactive, defensive type of badminton, while Nagisa is proactive, offensive player and stubborn to a fault.
だったらネット前の勝負に持ち込んで。あらら、違うよ、渚ちゃん。
With her badminton play and the age-old argument of talent versus hard work is one of the cornerstones of Hanebado. Much time is spent on Nagisa's curves, but Ayano's curves get a lot of focus just as well. It's these two characters, along with some strong supporting characters, and some characters that are just kinda there until anime gave them something to do, but even after a helping hand, they didn't really do much. Nagisa is the biggest foil to Ayano, alongside certain Danish character. While we do follow Ayano most of the story and she gets most of the focus, it should be noted that she feels like a sports anime villain during the Inner High qualifiers arc. The intense stare during matches, the cruel words towards fellow athletes, and the cold attitude even to her clubmates is your textbook only strength matters in sports. Friends are unnecessary anime villain that gets absolutely smoked by our protagonist and they learn a valuable lesson. What makes Ayano much more sympathetic is how her mom, who she bonded over by playing badminton together, abandoned her after she lost to a certain twin-tailed menace. And after witnessing her mom leaving without uttering as much as a goodbye, which would leave scars on anyone. What's worse, it gets worse. Ayano's mom adopted another child to be her prodigy in badminton, making Ayano feel even worse, and only reinforced the idea that her mother left because she just wasn't strong enough. Ayano is so traumatized by this that whenever she loses, she mentally returns to that of a spoiled child, making up excuses how she didn't really lose, and how she didn't have that good of a sleep, and felt tired throughout the match. And you get the idea by now. Ayano played badminton because it was fun to play with her mother in the picture, but once that is gone, there is no reason to play. Most of the series we spend on Ayano trying to find a reason why she even plays badminton, because before all of this, Ayano never made a choice herself. She didn't choose to be left behind. To play badminton again, every single choice was put on her without her approval, even if her friends do mean the best. Ayano feels like a passenger in her own story, and that helps us to get immersed in her journey through badminton, and whatever the fuck is going on in that family. As you can tell, Ayano pretty much gets dragged to be in the badminton club, and depending if you read the manga or watched the anime, either Coach Tachibana tricks her or Elena coaxes her to join when she becomes the club manager. As a note, I much prefer the Elena route because of the big payoff we get at the end of the season. Ayano is a tragic character, and I never truly hate her, even when she is at her lowest, lashing out on others. Only thing I hate about her is where she came from, but we are having fun, so let's talk about the other supporting characters, namely the two that directly or indirectly caused most harm to Ayano. Kaoruko, our pink Hatsune Miku rep, is a peculiar case. On the one hand, her actions directly led us here, but at the same time, she feels rather inconsequential. She has great lines, she turns a new leaf after getting completely squashed by Ayano. She is also the least different to her manga counterpart, and unfortunately for you, the anime-only enjoyers, her character peaks later in the manga with an admittedly a very sweet scene. In the anime she gets relegated to the audience where she comments on the plays just like every other schmuck. Connie on the other hand is a very compelling character, both in how different she feels between the manga and the anime and how she just drops off from the face of the earth in the anime and only gets some closure during the post-credits scene. Connie is the protege that our dearest mother picked up after abandoning Ayano, so you know there is some friction between Connie and Ayano. Connie on her part wants to be one big family with Ayano, Mama and herself, but understandably Ayano is against that idea. But the real friction is that Connie is Danish. I'm kidding. Connie could be worse. She could be Swedish. The anime Connie is very aggressive, compared to the rather free-spirited, well-meaning manga version. And the initial doubles match she has with Ayano plays out completely differently in the anime and in the manga. In the manga it feels like a friends having a match with some stakes, while in the anime the whole world is at stake, and if Ayano loses, then it's all over. No mom for you. I hope you can see why you should read the manga from the beginning, instead of hopping at specific chapter where the anime ends. The vibes are completely different.
約束したでしょ綾乃。今度こそ1対1で試合を。何？みえ。何が？
In the anime, Connie actually does a little prank, and she is the one that dumps Mama and comes to Japan to try and find Ayano. Uchika didn't just pick up Connie, actually she just did that. Anyway, Connie is an orphan, so it wasn't that bad of a deal for her. But what Connie wants most of all is family. Just like deep down, Ayano just wants her mother back. If Uchika wasn't present in the story, then Connie and Ayano could have gotten along rather swimmingly. But Uchika had to ruin everything by being alive. Both feel inferior to one another, and it's not something that simple communication can fix, as declared by Ayano.
無理だよ。3人で家族になるなんてさ。今度は私がお母さんを捨てるんだから。
Someone was just murdered on the court, and no one is calling the police. This has to be settled by the game of badminton, and unfortunately for anime onlys, that means you have to pick up the manga. There is actually one funny change that the anime did in Uchika's and Connie's relationship, but I will leave that when I talk about Uchika. Nagisa doesn't have that many issues compared to Ayano, but she has one big one. And if you've seen my Uma Musume video, then you should pick it up instantly when I zoom in to her knee brace. Hanebado does that a lot. Nagisa is a tall one, and pretty early it's made clear that she was passed over a scholarship for a more prestigious badminton club. And the reason was, the coach picked up a less talented person over her since he could see that Nagisa's knee is a ticking time bomb. Now in the anime, her knee works just fine, but in the manga, I guess you have to read it and find out. I must say, as someone who has weak knees, I was flinching every time the manga or anime did a close-up shot of her knee, and I was imagining the pain that it would cause. Nagisa is also a character where it's easy to root for her. She is the underdog of the story, and every match we focus on her is an edge-of-your-seat entertainment. Not that I think about it. In the end, she doesn't even have that many matches, so whenever the focus is on her, it feels refreshing. Other supporting characters do get their moments, and most notable ones are Elena, Tachibana and Riko. What sets these three apart from the rest of the badminton club are that they actually get to do something. Okay, I lied a bit. The anime includes an anime original story with two boys, Kaku and Yukiteru, but I was rather checked out, because they recycle a lot of same stuff that our main trio goes through, just worse. Sora and Epina do get more time to shine, especially when Epina interacts with three girls that quit the club when Nagisa turned toxic, but I don't find their journey that interesting to talk about. In the manga, and a minor spoiler alert, the boys might as well not exist, and the girls have their moments in the manga right after the Inter-High qualifier ends. Mind you, this is where Riko and Elena get their moments to shine, but Riko and Elena get more expanded focus on the anime, by the virtue that they are best friends to Nagisa and Ayano. Riko has a full match against Nozomi that we spend plenty of time on, and Elena is just the best girl.
綾乃のことでお話ししたいことがあります。
Elena gets the rare opportunity to actually call out Uchika to her face, and it was rather cathartic to see Elena standing up for Ayano against her mother. Elena also joins the badminton club as a manager to coax Ayano to join, whereas compared to the manga, Elena joins the club after Ayano decides to join. A small but a significant change. But I didn't mention that after Elena hears Uchika's reasoning, she feels guilty for making Ayano to pick up the racket and play badminton again. The payoff through at the end though, marvelous. Riko is also a great friend to Nagisa, and she really cares about her and sees her as an idol of sorts. She is always supportive, even when Nagisa is at her lowest, lashing out on everyone at the club. And much like Tachibana, she worries about Nagisa's knee. Last noteworthy character is the coach Tachibana. He has a sleazy introduction, but quickly becomes a competent coach for Nagisa and Ayano, but mostly for Nagisa. He cares about Ayano, but one of the biggest moments with him was cut from the manga, and trust me, we will get to it later. Tachibana was an Olympic level badminton player whose career was cut short after sustaining injury to his knee, which, as you might have guessed, makes him extra protective with Nagisa. In the anime, he even gives her the knee brace that gets more screen time than our badminton club boys combined. The knee brace also has more character than most of the cast. There is actually a little difference here between the anime and the manga, but once again, we will get to that. Tachibana as a character is okay. He gets a lot more focus in the manga and one coaching buddy. Place your bets that he has several heart-to-hearts with. But later in the manga, it's made clear that Nagisa also has feelings for him, which, yeah, that's a no from me, dog. Now I highly recommend that you check out Hanebado. If not the whole series or the manga, but at least the first episode and the first few chapters of the manga. After that, I hope you come to the same conclusion as I, which was that the tone of the series is completely different. How did this happen? Well, before I answer that, let's talk about the topic, that whether or not you're an anime-only friend or manga reader uncle, unites all fans and haters of Hanebado.
おかえり、綾乃。
I've been carefully avoiding not to slip to any rants about Uchika Hanesaki, but I'm dropping my rant here, just like Uchika dropped Ayano. Ayano's mom, Connie's foster mom, and all around terrible person. Her hair is long, the ribbon tying them together is large, but the biggest thing about her are the numerous red flags. She has been living in my head rent-free for months now, and half of that is how infuriating she is, and the other half is how the story handles her. If you are anime only, then this might come as a shock to you, but even with the more comedic tone of the manga, she is worse here. Can you actually believe that? Here is one example. Remember when I mentioned that anime did a funny change in Connie's and Uchika's relationship? Well, in the anime, Connie leaves Mama so she can meet Ayano. But in the manga, get this, in the manga, Uchika abandoned Connie as well. She leaves Connie after she got cold, just like Ayano. You heard that right? Uchika is a two-timer. It's terrible, but it's just so funny that I can't help but to laugh at the absurdity of this pitch. The anime makes a rather drastic change compared to the manga, and has Ayano and Uchika meet up way earlier. I won't say when they first meet face to face in the manga, it's for later, but in the anime it feels so cold. Uchika turns up and tries to act like nothing happened. She really is the worst. The manga on the other hand is way more comedic, and somehow, some way, the abandonment feels worse in the manga, because Uchika is part of the jokes more than once, and that just doesn't land well. While the anime Uchika comes unquestionably more cold than the manga part, how the manga frames the narrative makes it feel worse. So why did she do this? Well, Uchika is very insecure about being a mother, which is fine. She bonds with Ayano by playing badminton with her just for fun. They make their own rules, and Ayano acts like a child when she loses. You know, normal stuff that children do. Uchika sees this as a bonding moment with Ayano. But for Ayano, these little games they have are so much more. Ayano is hell-bent on keeping the play going, so Uchika spends more time with her. So when Ayano injures herself badly by trying to keep the play alive, Uchika is taken back and starts to question the role of badminton in Ayano's life. So when Ayano loses to Kaoruko, makes up the same excuses, Uchika is a proper parent and talks about how Ayano's health is more important than how well she does in badminton. Hell no, she straight up dumps her to Ayano's grandparents and dips out. In her mind, by distancing herself from Ayano, Ayano will no longer pursue badminton in an unhealthy manner, but that backfires hard when it gets into Ayano's mind that she needs to be even better at badminton so that her mother will come back. Nice going, Uchika. As a consequence of her many actions, Ayano and Connie too are perhaps tiny bit unstable and should have gone to therapy, but instead they took the free option and just had their breakdowns at the court. In this economy, I'm fully on board with their choice. Having a mental breakdown during a game is way more acceptable than just having one on a public space, or so my therapist told me, but what does he know? The way Uchika is depicted in the manga and anime is different enough for there to be a merit to look further at those differences. In the manga, Uchika is the butt of many jokes, but as a nice bonus, multiple, and I mean multiple characters call Uchika out. One of the many good points people make to Uchika is that Ayano just wants her mother back, and longer Uchika stays away from her, harder it will be to come back. Which did quell my seething rage when I reread the manga. They did so as well in the anime, namely Elena, but it's rather suited that whenever Uchika tries to talk about why she abandoned Ayano, all the characters just call out her bullshit, in their minds or directly to her face. I love it. My favorite example of that is this talk Uchika has with her friend, who, and I kid you not, directly asks Uchika if she only had Ayano so she could mold her into a perfect badminton player. She was literally on that Hyuga plan, but thankfully she really did love Ayano, and the badminton plan backfired horribly. To be fair to Uchika, she does have some self-reflection, not only in this moment but confesses that she did get married out of love and creating some sort of badminton monster was not her goal. Motherhood did change her, and if she had any plans to create a perfect badminton monster, then those died the moment she had Ayano in her hands. Now almost all of the above would be fine if they're handled well within the story, but they're rocky at best, and well, we need to talk about what really made me seethe reading the last few chapters of Hanebado, and made me realize that it's not only Uchika, but the entire situation surrounding her. Okay, end of the manga spoilers here about Uchika, because I've been holding on this for over a half a year now, and I can't hold it in anymore. Okay? Ready? 1, 2, 3. She has fucking terminal illness and is on death's door. You would think she would try to reach Ayano before it's too late, but no, of course not. She's a terrible mother after all. But that's not the best part. Do you want to know what's the best part? No one tells Ayano this fact. Ayano accidentally overhears her coach Wiko and her father, yeah, she has a father, casually talking about it in a bar. That's fucking right. There is apparently a significant amount of people who know about Uchika's condition, and no one thinks to tell Ayano about it. Every adult in Ayano's life is a terrible person. Holy shit. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. Canonically, in the manga, Ayano and Uchika have not met and had a face-to-face conversation before this. When that happens, Ayano finally catches up to her mother, and first words she spouts are you sick? Yes, Ayano, she is. Now how does all of this get resolved? As a manga reader, unsatisfying, rage-inducing, and completely undeserved. But as an anime watcher, unsatisfying, rage-inducing, and completely undeserved. But from Ayano's perspective, she got the one thing she always wanted, and I take solace in that, even if I don't like it. A good redemption, heck, not even a good one, but a hell-satisfying redemption is buried here somewhere, But that final reveal about Uchika really ruined it for me. I don't know if the author intended us to feel sympathetic towards Uchika, but it certainly made me have the opposite effect. I hated her more and started hating characters around her as a result. Poor Ayano. She only wanted a mother, and this is what she gets. Okay, I'm done with Uchika. It was good to get all of that out. This all had a point though, as how Uchika is portrayed in the manga, and compare that how the anime handles her is a good segue to start talking about the actual differences between manga and the anime. The anime takes liberties with the story, and the one that I have been hammering about is the switch in tone. Hanebado anime took inspiration from the later parts of the manga, where the drama is heightened, and most of our cast have stopped pretending like they have any sanity left. It's not that outlandish, all of it considered, and certainly not so radical like the Wandering Sun adaptation, that started the anime middle of the manga, and sprinkled the early chapters as small flashbacks. To my knowledge, no anime has been this bold in adapting a manga, and it's a small miracle that it works in The Wandering Sun. So I can see why most don't adapt manga with such unconventional methods. Do I sympathize with you if you preferred the rather comedic start to the manga that was splashed with some tension? Yes, a bit. But personally, I love my sports anime with high stakes and drama. So I welcome this change. It is always a challenge to adapt a manga, or any work for that matter. Yes, you could do a panel-to-panel, line-to-line recreation with added animation, music, sound effects, and voice acting. But that doesn't mean that the audience gets the same experience as they would have had reading the original work. Scenes that are breeze to read through can become tiresome to witness animated. You are switching mediums after all. Anime studios have to make decisions, sometimes big sweeping ones, such as adding or removing content, if they want to translate the intent of the manga to your television screen. You might have some examples in mind, like Fullmetal Alchemist, where the anime after a certain point deviated from the source material, or K-On!, where season 2 is like 90% anime original material. Don't quote me on that. I made that number up, but it is a significant amount. Or the anime adaptation of Usagi Drop, where they wisely made the perfect adaptation by not adapting the rest of the manga. Nowadays, anime adaptations do follow the source material rather faithfully, and one could argue too rigidly at times. But you do get some oddballs, like the Promised Neverland Season 2. Calling that an oddball feels too kind, but it's not like there is any Promised Neverland fans that could correct me. They don't even know that Season 2 exists. I'm speculating the following, but I'm taking a gander that the Studio Leiden films had so much freedom to alter the source material because the chances for a second season were so low, and how the tone changes throughout the manga. Even the earlier chapters feel like an excerpts from a different manga compared to the Inter-High qualifiers where the anime stops. Now the big question is that what sort of changes were made, and how they impacted the overall experience. I've said my piece that I prefer how the anime handles the same scenarios compared to the manga, but let's run through some of these changes and see where the anime went right and where it fumbled, because it is not a perfect adaptation. Remember these faces? Yeah, neither did I. But the anime studio certainly gave them something to do. Unfortunately, it wasn't anyway memorable, and I do think there is a good reason why their stories were expanded upon. Or, to put it bluntly, the anime adaptation gave them something they lacked: a story. I speculate that the reason for spending a couple of episodes with our boys is because the anime cut 2 characters from the manga and 1 big scenario. I'll talk about that later, but first, let's get it out of the way. The early fanservice sticks out like a sore, well-endowed thumb. If the boys were unmemorable, then the manga fanservice sure ain't. The earlier comedic tone leans itself to many fanservice shots and scenarios. Like this instance where Elena and Nagisa stuffed themselves inside a closet to look at Ayano's photo book. Very important panel. There are plenty of bra, panty and ass shots and shower scenes. Like this one extra chapter with Connie and her new badminton gal pals, which made it into the anime funnily enough. But the most frequent one is Nagisa. who gets her boobs fondled, ogled at, and oh boy, do I not like it at all. Especially considering how her big frame becomes a plot point later, makes the earlier fanservice stuff just tasteless. I also read this part of an interview, AI translated so could be wrong, with the author that talks about how he made cute girls, because that's what he thought professionals do. Thankfully, he had a quoted editor, who told him to just be himself, and tone was completely different by volume 4, which would be about halfway through Inter-High qualifiers. Even the author said as much in the same interview. Cute girls are now illegal. Another victim of this change is the comedy, and the early manga chapters are filled with so much of it. Best way to illustrate this is small scenario where Ayano has been cutting out Uchika's face from the family photos and used them to make this monstrosity. This Ayano does not feel like the same character we get later in the manga, let alone how anime Ayano acts at this point. And I'm glad this was cut. While I'm not opposed to some jokes, these early jokes really clash with the tone change. It also means less jokes about Nagisa's ginormous bahugas, so that's fine. Riko and Elena have more depth to them in the anime, but some characters have less depth in the anime than in the manga, which is a shame. The biggest one is the trainer Kuraishi. You remember him, right? That dude that just yelled at Nozomi. He was the one that actually gave Nagisa her knee brace, even if it was by Tachibana's orders. Later on in the manga, he becomes a true pro to Tachibana, and a nice recurring character whenever a big tournament is going on. I really liked whenever he showed up after the Inter-High qualifiers. Shame that the studio didn't stick to the manga in this case. The anime moves some stuff around, and I only talk about how Ayano and Uchika meet up way earlier, and how Riko's resolution gets moved earlier to her duel with Nozomi. We focus on Nagisa the first 2 episodes and resolve her little arc before we really get into Ayano. Another thing to note is that Tachibana already coached the club before he met Ayano in the manga. Nothing too big here, and I'm fine with all of these. There are some substantial changes, such as the first match against Koni, which makes the bout in the manga look like a friendly tussle, and the second match Ayano has against Koni is an anime original. Actually, the entire episode is mostly anime original, and man, it has the best tone of whiplash of the entire series, including this gem of a comment by Ayano. What really is a big change is the final match between Ayano and Nagisa. While it is just as intense as it was in the manga, the resolution hits way different. When Nagisa wins in the anime, she lets out all of her emotions, lets those tears flow. Ayano is defeated, but she takes it like a champ. In a twist, the manga end to the match is a real downer, mood-wise, not quality-wise, because Ayano passes out during the match and everyone has a very different reaction at the end. This includes Nagisa, who is just shocked. Possibly the biggest change is that the anime cut out Viggo, Akoni's grandpa, and another character, Ayano's dad. Ayano's dad, Shintaro, is surprisingly not that important, and I'm pretty sure he is also deadbeat dad, who only shows up whenever Ayano has a big match. I can't actually remember if Uchika and he broke up. Koni's grandpa though, the Olympic gold medalist Viggo Kierkegaard, is a big deal, and not just in the size department. During the final third of the manga, his introduction in the manga, well, it's not pretty. He is a womanizer and he literally picks up Ayano, forces her to play a match against another player, and mind you, this is on the same day after Ayano finished her 2 matches in the Inter-High qualifier. Oh, but wait, it gets better. Viggo tells Ayano that if she beats that mysterious other player, she will be permitted to meet her mom, who is in the audience. He just leaves out a small little detail. Ayano's opponent is Wang Lixiao, who is currently the #1 ranked badminton player in the world. During this match, Ayano's mental state hits rock bottom, and she is desperate, and I mean desperate at this point, to beat Lixiao. Even after Tachibana, who is the only adult in this story that 100% has Ayano's best interest in mind, finds out what's going on, tries to stop this farce, but Ayano insists on continuing because Mama is waiting for her. Ayano is really at her lowest here, which makes the next part sting. So in a shocking turn of events, Ayano manages to beat Lixiao, But wait, it gets even better. Before Lixiao's defeat, Viko tells Uchika to run away if Ayano actually manages to beat Lixiao, and she does. She fucking nopes out and leaves with Lixiao. Oh yeah, it gets better. Lixiao, as it turns out, is the third protege of Uchika. That's right, forget about two-timing. Uchika is a certified three-timer. She even calls Lixiao and Connie, her daughters, to Ayano's dad when they meet during the inter-high qualifiers. I mean, holy fucking shit. Just how low can you go? Lixiao herself vanishes from the story, and there is one offhanded comment how she was holding back, so Ayano's win didn't really count. Fuck this shit. Let's not get the final word to the worst mob. But I want to highlight this heart-to-heart that Elena and Ayano have at the end of the anime. It is emotional and it is so cathartic to see Ayano thanking Elena for making her play badminton again, ending the season on a very high note. And can you believe that it is anime original? It's probably my favorite scene of the series and great cap to the anime season.
一度バドミントンに誘ってくれてありがとう
Rereading the manga and watching the anime for the first time really mellowed out my feelings towards the series as a whole. Uchika is definitely not the worst mom ever. Takopi's original scene is a testament to that. But to draw a comparison, I found myself making more excuses for Asuka's mom in Hibiki Euphonium than Uchika, even though Asuka's mom literally slaps her daughter in front of the teachers. The narrative definitely frames her in the wrong, but you can also empathize, not justify, but empathize with her, trying to raise a daughter as a single mother, which I never did for Uchika. To be real with you, Hanebado is not even close to being my favorite sports anime, or a manga. But if you're looking for a sports anime, then Hanebado is a good choice, if you want a more drama-heavy experience. The anime is also very interesting in how it deviates from the manga, but still stays faithful to it. There are big enough changes that you can just pick up the manga at the exact point where the anime ends and start reading. You need to start at the beginning, and the tonal whiplash might give you an aneurysm. Speaking solely about the manga, it's not perfect either, and it does pull some stuff out of its ass, but Ayano's story and circumstances are compelling, and following her badminton play is a joy. Nagisa gets her finest moment later down the line, but it's just a shame that the main conflict does not have a satisfying resolution. The anime has its issues, but I think my suspicions at the start were correct. I prefer it over the manga. Perhaps because it is more open-ended, and we don't get the controversial twists and turns that the story takes. Taking out the majority of the fan service and easing up on the comedy was also plus in my book. Elena was already one of my favorite characters in the manga, but the anime really made her shoot up in my rankings, and she is equal to Nagisa in my books. I should end this video with that I'm glad the anime adaptation exists. I mean, I wouldn't have found out about Hanebado without it, but I love that he took these risks in changing the story, and most of them worked. What Hanebado taught me is that I would welcome more of these drastic changes on adapting manga to the big screen, while still leaving intact the core of the story. Same we might never see a hypothetical second season, because the manga really picks up after the inter-high qualifiers, and the other members of the club, namely Riko and Manga Elena, get their moments to shine. I mean, Riko does get her moment in the anime, but Elena is the GOAT. The GOAT! Thank you for watching, and I don't know. I might do a game review next, but who knows. Have a nice day, and don't go outside to touch grass. It's absolutely scorching here.